clutch type LSD. I'm not really going to get into the specifics on the different types between Torsen, helical, the clutch type, and stuff like that. I'll leave that up to you guys to look into. So I'm going to go over kind of like my first impressions, what I think of it now, how it's kind of transformed the car. So first off, I got the differential used, so I didn't actually pull mine apart and pull my diff apart and put in the new unit. I actually found it used already in an R160 housing with a 411 final drive. So I just bought it used, took out my rear differential, put the whole new R160 housing with the Cusco in it back in the car. It was good to go. If you guys do pull apart your rear differential and have any questions on how that's done, you can let me know, because the taking out the rear differential and putting the new one in was not that difficult. So my first impressions of the rear diff were that it actually made a lot of noise, and I did do a lot of reading online, and I did know that it was going to make a lot of noise, a lot of popping. Pretty much everybody said the parking lots were going to be pretty much hell, and I did experience that at first. Now though, I have added 4 fluid ounces of friction modifier in the back end, or in the differential, and it's silent. Parking lots are perfectly fine, and it made a big difference. Basically what friction modifier does is it takes the clutches that are inside of them and doesn't make them as touchy or as grabby, so it reduces or increases the amount of torque required to lock up the rear differential. So before, if you were on the gas at all, it felt as if it were a welded diff. It was completely locked up under any throttle movement or any throttle whatsoever. It was really annoying, to be honest. Now that I've put in the friction modifier, it's pretty much silent. It only really grabs when you are really trying to get on it, which is perfect. Before, you'd come to a stop sign, and if you were making like a hard corner, even under really light throttle, it was just locking up, and the inside wheel would be dragging, and it would make a lot of popping. Now that I put the friction modifier in, it's pretty much silent. Huge difference. So if you guys are going to go the route of putting in a clutch type limited slip, make sure you put in friction modifier, otherwise it's gonna sound pretty bad. But my first impressions were that it felt much more stable through corners. You'd go through a corner, and right when you started to roll on the throttle, it just kind of wanted to plant and go. Going around a hard corner, you really get into the gas, and the ass end would kind of get it right in a line and go. There wasn't any like going back and forth. It just kind of like snuck or slapped itself right in place and just drove out of a corner. It just felt a lot more stable. If you're going through like a high-speed corner and you start rolling into the gas, it's enough to lock it up. It really kind of just pulls yourself around. Also, the night that I did install it, I did happen to go to a parking lot. It was really wet out. Before, what I did is I had kind of gone straight, turned the wheel as hard as I could, and hit it in first gear before I put the diff in, and I just got a whole lot of understeer. The front end would just push. There wasn't really anything going on. Since I put the diff in, I did the exact same thing, turned the wheel, and I mean, it just completely spun right around. It does make it feel a lot more like a rear-wheel drive car now. It just feels a lot better. There's a lot less understeer, even going into a corner, than there was before. It feels much better. When you start getting on the gas going around a corner, it doesn't wash out. It just snaps itself into line and pushes yourself out of a corner. You can kind of feel it grab a little bit and go. Also, since installing the limited slip differential, it's been a lot more fun to drive. You know, I just put on winter tires now that it's December up here in upstate New York. Before I was still running summer tires, and it's been in the 30 degrees, and you know, you come around a corner in second gear and just get on it, roll into it, and the back end would come out, and you had a little bit of a slide going on. It was fun. If I have some footage of it, I'll put that in right now. So basically, my very first impressions were a little bit skewed because I got a lot of that popping and a lot of that almost welded diff-like sounds and how it felt, and it did make me a little bit uneasy at first, but basically the advantages outweigh the disadvantages of the annoyances of it. You know, I did have people in the car, and they could tell something was up. They always asked, you know, is there something wrong? But now that I put the friction modifier in it, it sounds and acts completely as stock until you get on the gas, which is awesome, because you know, people will never know. You don't get any annoyances. Basically, there's no disadvantages to it whatsoever at this point, now that I've put the friction modifier in. Now that I've put maybe a few thousand miles on it since I've put it in, and it's been a lot better. I really like the way it feels. Cornering is great. And also, when you're trying to like get on a gas, or you know, get on the throttle, you just go straight. There's no, it just feels like there's more control, or it just feels better. It's really hard to explain, but as you come around a corner, or even when you just get on the gas, you just kind of track, you know, straight and true. There's really nothing else going on. It is a lot more fun to drive. You know, the rear end does like to swing out a bit if you're really trying to. In the dry, when there's plenty of grip, it doesn't want to at all. But if it's wet and if it's wet and it's cold and you got summer tires, obviously the back end's going to come around. It does take some getting used to. I have had my moments of complete spin around, but you know, you got to learn. Also, if I didn't say this, the clutch, or the LSD is set up to 100% lockup. It is an 8-disc, if I remember correctly, and it can be set to 100%, 75%, and 50%. When I got it, it was set up to 100%. I didn't know what to expect, so I put it in at 100, and if I wanted to change it, I can go ahead and pull it apart and change it. I thought about changing it to 75 based on my first impressions, but now that I've put the friction modifier in the back, I'm totally satisfied with how 100% is. It is I have completely stock suspension at the moment. I do know, or I have been told, if I do go lower and add some sway bars, that the 100% may be too aggressive, but I have yet to determine that. So far, it's been one of the best mods that I've done to the car. Most fun mods. I owned a Subaru Legacy GT before this, and that was pretty much stage 2. This 2015 WRX has just all been power wise. Haven't done anything else really. So I really like how the LSD feels. It just feels much more planted. If you guys are out doing autocross, I highly recommend it. If you're going to do any track driving, I totally recommend it. It feels so much better than the open diffs were stock. It definitely feels a lot more like an STI. Yes, I have driven an STI, so I can say that. The only thing that the STI does have over this car is the limited slip front, but I haven't really noticed a huge difference. But I can say I really like how the rear end in the car feels. It definitely, you go around a corner with a lot less understeer. It makes a big difference in my opinion. I was able to pick it up fairly cheaply because it was used, which made is so much nicer. If you guys do go ahead and buy it new, it is pricey, but if you can find a deal on it used, I say totally go for it. I ended up only paying like $650–700 to get it shipped to New York with the diff, so it was an absolute steal. Another thing I did not mention was that in 2015 WRXs, they use the traction control for when you have a wheel spinning. It latches on to the side that is spinning to set the other to get the other wheel to move. In this case, I haven't had any issues with the traction control screwing with the limited slip differential at all. It's been completely fine. Now that I have the diff in, most likely I just turn the traction control off if I know I'm going to be pushing the car, just because it is pretty easy to get the rear end to come out if it is wet. So once it does come out, you know, the traction control grabs it and it locks it back in. There hasn't been any sort of issues with the traction control. You don't have to turn it off if you don't want to. It's perfectly fine with it still on. There's no reason why you'd have to permanently disable your traction control system. Well, I don't think there's anything more that I can talk about. I've been just trying to give you guys information based on the questions that I have received. I'm not sure what else I can really talk about, but if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll try and do my best to answer them. And hopefully, if I can, I'll make some more videos in the future to see, get your guys' opinion on the mod that I've done. I appreciate it. I'm Derek, by the way. If you guys have